Hi everyone. So today the discussion would be understanding of the AI landscape in terms of the kind of technological advancement which has happened in the last couple of years in terms of the publication of the technical part of the innovation, and we'll try and drive and understand the modules and the submodules around how to combat the climate change and achieve the SDG goals of 2030. SDG for the Sustainable Development Goals, and the mandate is to achieve them by 2030. And perhaps the other day I was having a discussion with my team based out in Africa, where we were discussing as to how we can actually utilize ICT to solve the pressing problem statements stated under the SDG goals, and how we can uh, look forward to combat the same in terms of the understanding of the modules and the submodules. So perhaps I'll just retrieve the data sets. We'll start the discussion. The understanding would be how the data is being churned and how that data is segregated of solving the problems, maybe in agriculture, perhaps just trying to get more people online. So I'll just put myself on mute and we'll start in a while. Okay, before we even dive into this, we have been discussing about the input data. Now, for the input data to be understood and utilized for any proprietary algorithm, it is important to segregate the data, which is the input data, into the real data set and the synthetic data set. However, there are uh, cases or events where you need to create the synthetic data set just to see how it works in the real world scenario, which is the offline world. So for that, we will start segregating the data in terms of the understanding of the landscape of the classification. That is the learning methods, which is part of G0 6N3/08. Then bootstrap method of generating training patterns, that is G0 6F18/214. Now for the validation part, which is important from the standpoint view of first creating a synthetic data and how that can be validated. It is bifurcated into two classifications. One is G0 6F18/217, that is performance evaluation, active pattern learning techniques. Then we have the learning techniques based on feedback of a supervisor, and here the supervisor is an automated module, so there's no human intervention here, which is called as intelligent oracle. That is G0 6F18/2185. Machine learning, we already talked about G0 6N20/00 for the longest time. Then we have Hopfield networks, that is recurrent networks, G0 6N3/044. Convolution networks, CNN, is G0 6N3/0464. Weakly supervised learning, which is basically semi-supervised or self-supervised learning. So there is something called as weakly supervised learning also. That is G0 6N3/0895. Now the learning itself, it can be of different types for the data sets. So we have supervised learning, active learning, adversarial learning, transfer learning. Transfer learning is interesting. G0 6N3/096. Then we have hyperparameter optimization, learning to learn. That is G0 6N3/0985. Region based segmentation, G0 6067/11. Now for Okay, I'm not getting into the arrangement, but what are we doing in this particular case? Okay, so right now we are seeing a lot of applications, whether it's a desktop or it is for the handheld devices. However, what is the mechanism or the thought process? So we'll just try to deep dive into that. And one such example is you are, or perhaps the algorithm is identifying at least a pair of real images. So you would be seeing many a times real human images are uploaded, and that is also called as seed image in one or more cases. So seed image and real image of a real human is provided to the module, and then it is used to generate synthetic images. Now, what is the logic behind the synthetic images? We'll try and deep dive into the understanding if they have mentioned about it, because most of the applications which are being filed, it is more from the standpoint view of creating a trade secret kind of a portfolio rather than disclosing everything. Although if we have to follow the apposita stands for a person skill in the art, um, should be able to utilize the disclosure of the invention written as a patent application and should be able to solve other problems. So that could be in terms of licensing, and if the annuity fees is not paid, then of course it's free to use kind of a capitalistic way of understanding the whole intellectual property rights. Okay, now at the third instance, the real image is combined with the synthetic image. That means the input data, in some ways, although it's taking the real image first, that is the real image, and the synthetic data, which is being created utilizing the real image. Expand the data set used for training various parameters. Yesterday we talked about, although in the patenting landscape you will see the word parameter a lot of places. However, from the standpoint view of the software way of talking about the same is the variables. So you would be seeing synonymously the utilization of the word parameter, and at the other instance it would be a variable. Okay, let's deep dive into the other aspects if we get something. Okay, so how the analysis of the image is happening, it's at a very superficial level the discussion is happening right now. And this is analysis of the image. Then you're identifying the key features and you're labeling the features, say for standpoint view, the skeleton of the face. So there are points whereby you can actually just take those points and contour around the other aspects. So the super pixels in the image is utilized to generate new synthetic data, and then there is human intervention involved where you are giving feedback whether whatever being generated is acceptable to the candidate. So folks who have been watching out our discussions for long, they understand the concept that we don't use the word user, admin, and the like. We use the word candidate, because then if somebody who is at the receiving end is always a candidate in the online world. So that's how we are trying to understand the new world order. Okay, this is done. Let's get into the other one. So here we have a hybrid neural network, but I need to see how the hybrid neural network is being generated. So let's just um, so we have these deep learning models. I'm looking into the impact what deep learning models are being utilized. Okay. So as I said, this is more this particular discussion which we did is more from the standpoint of a disclosure, which is more to be understood from the standpoint view of creating um, proprietary models around um, the framework of the generative. Somebody asked, okay, so this discussion is around the AI landscape of images which have been filed globally in terms of patenting. We are doing the analysis and identifying important classifications which can be utilized for further research, and accordingly the consensus which is coming along is most of the applications in terms of wherever the data is being utilized, most of the applications are not disclosing the way it has to be performed. It is more of a disclosure from the standpoint view of creating defensive publication. Folks who are in the technological domain of understanding intellectual property rights know these terms. So that is how it works. Okay, this is done. I'll discuss one more and then we will log off from the live. Okay, so there's another discussion around confidential computing. Let's look into this. Looks interesting. Okay. It's more to do the cryptographic mechanism. Okay, I'll just look into what are we doing here. Okay, this is not that interesting. Let's look into something else. Productive. Okay, this is around digital twins, which is something a very hot topic for discussion. At the same time, a lot can be done if understood in the right sense. Um, for the organizational activities of identifying the risk analysis, we have G06Q10/0635. Then we have computer aided architectural design, G06F30/13, related to design of the building. So it's more to do with the infra. Then we have insurance, G06Q40/08, real estate, G06Q50/16, and how it is performing the same. Let's look into this. I think I just jumped a new page. Okay. No, we have it here. Okay, we'll go back. Okay. So digital twin itself is being understood in many facets right now. Although when we talk about digital twin, somehow NFT comes into picture and the others. Here we are trying to understand the physical property, which is an asset in the offline world, how it can be stored in the online world in terms of digital twins. In this particular case, what they have done is um, they are taking the data of the physical world objects through the deployment of IoT sensors, and they have different variables and parameters for the object properties. And for the virtual risk twin and prediction module, they are looking into the forecast structure, the modeling structure, and predicting the risk measure and the associated impact structure. Let me just, okay, let's just understand what they are trying to process. Okay. Yeah, actually, I have been working on a couple of other devices, so thank you for that insight. Okay. Um, so, any physical property which is being built right now, it needs to go through the structural checklist of so many authorities. Now, how digital twin can be utilized in this, and this is from the standpoint view of what we discussed in terms of the tagging part, and it can be utilized to build or obviously license such kind of technologies. So, digital twin modules are still designed first right now, and it starts from a 3D CAD model. Now, the iteratives here or the solution which they have proposed here is um, you need to take the fresh image data when the construction is being done. And right now, the data is being taken by satellites. You have drones, mobile phones, handheld devices, fixed cameras, and the like. Now, automatic extraction is done in terms of the risk relevant parameters, like, say, for example, what could be the variables. One is the edge detection for fall height. Then we have temporary structure deviation. Other could be the wildland fuel load, facet corrosion clause, and the like. Now, the fuse data is fed into a standardized location digital twin data format that does not require a full BIM model, which is the current way of doing or executing the same process. And the computer vision models are being trained to detect the construction specific risk objects. So, in very simple words, it is the SWOT analysis. So, what is important here is when you're building your own language models, it is important to identify the variables. The more the variables, the better would be the LLM model for execution, or I would rather say small language models will also suffice the purpose, because right now you need to look into the environmental data set, which has become a very predominant and an important data set from the execution point of view. Thank you for watching this out. If you have any questions, you can always connect with us, and we can see how we can collaborate in multiple aspects. So thank you for watching this out. Have a great day ahead.